This video is brought to you by Law Excellence IAS Academy.
Dear students, good morning. Let us start the discussion on today's newspaper, that is 1st April 2019. The first article, Seeking the Next Frontier. This is about recently tested India's anti-satellite missile, ASAT. You know that it was fired to hit a satellite which is existing in low Earth orbit, that is 300 km above the ground. On the other hand, when China tested it, it hit the satellite at 800 km above the surface and it has produced a lot of debris. Indian satellite or anti-satellite missile produced very few debris and they are also perishable very soon. Here remember, who is the supreme power in the world with regard to space technology is concerned? It is United States of America. A person who is in his first position likes to lose his position and come under the control of an international body? No. The first point we need to understand is USA is not interested to come into any space treaty or any agreement that is binding. And second, even though we have space treaty, moon treaty, but these are meant to morally act, not legally binding. So UN has did a slew of efforts towards bringing legal commitments across the people. But however, we fail to get them today. So that's why what this article says is we need a global regulatory regime with regard to space is concerned. Let's go further into this. Now India, if you take, what is the type of this missile setting? It is part of anti-ballistic missile. Initially, when US and Russia also have started anti-satellite missiles, these are also part of their ballistic missile program. Later, they have moved towards in-orbit anti-satellite systems, which are laser-based systems, which are called as co-orbital anti-satellite systems. It means another satellite will be moving around this and it will fire the laser to destroy the power into that particular satellite. So no debris is produced from this. So this particular technology is mastered today by the developed countries. So China did not master it yet. USA has this co-orbital anti-satellite systems and directed energy systems, which operates on the basis of laser. What is missing in the 2019 election coverage? Here, the Reader's editor, Mr. A.S. Pannirselvan, talks about the coverage of the Election Commission. Remember, is Election Commission a constitutional body or not? Yes. Under Article 324, it was constituted. Is this really an autonomous body, or its independence is getting compromised in one or the other way? So, the institutional setup of the Election Commission, is it weak? If we compare our days with Mr. Session and today's Election Commission, don't we see weakening of this institution? Why can't media raise the questions about this? That is, what is this article's essence is. So let us see the weaknesses of Election Commission and its independence today. Who appoints the members of the Election Commission? The CEC and other election commissioners? It is by President. It is not by the Collegium. And Tharakunde committee has recommended that there has to be a 3-member collegium consisting of CJI, Speaker, Prime Minister, etc. These people shall recommend the appointment of election commissioners. The size of the election commission, is it fixed? No. It is left to the discretion of the government of the day. Let's take, as of now we have 3. And if the government thinks that these 3 are not cooperating with it, it can make it 10. And can fill these 7 positions with the men of its own tribe. And the next is, the Election Commission's expenditure is not charged on the Consolidated Fund of India. And there is no post-retirement employment limitation. If you talk about CAG or Supreme Court judges, there is a limitation which clearly states that they cannot take up any employment after the retirement. But no such a clause exists with regard to the Election Commission and its commissioners. So these particular things compromise the autonomy of functioning of the Election Commission, and removal The chief election commissioner can be removed like the judge of the Supreme Court, but other election commissioners can be removed by the president. Only safeguard they have is the president shall consult with the CEC, take his advice before their removal. Other than that, there is no safeguard for them. So these are the points you need to keep in mind. The election commissions built up has institutional limitations. That's what we need to understand. Kartarpur focus. Kartarpur can be a corridor of goodwill between India and Pakistan. It is meant to connect Dera Baba Nanak in Punjab, India, to the Kartarpur Sahib Gurudwara in Punjab on Pakistan side. You know that the partition story. So the Punjab and Bengal, these are the two states which have faced the havoc of the partition. So in this scenario, many of the shrines of Sikhs, these are divided between India and Pakistan. So to bring pilgrimage across these, there was a long-term demand from the Sikhs to unite this. So in this case, what are the objections of India? In Kartarpur Gurudwara Committee, there were Khalistan movement activists. India do not want to have any anti-Indian element in that particular committee. And the second thing what India states is, the pilgrimage shall not have any cap. It means Pakistan shall allow unlimited number of the pilgrims to go to Kartarpur Sahib Gurudwara. On the other side, Pakistan wants to include this as a goodwill gesture and shall be connected with the other bilateral talks. India is not ready to include Kartarpur corridor as part of the other bilateral talks that are happening between these two. So this is essence of it. Next is murky swamp. Now, in any hung assembly, two offices that are becoming very controversial, they are the office of the speaker and governor. So these two offices again became controversial in Goa too. You know, no party has got the requisite majority to form the government in Goa. In that case, single largest party generally be called to form the government. This is the tradition. But Goa governor called largest coalition headed by BJP as they came forward to form the government first. That is what is his explanation. After the death of Mr. Manohar Parrikar, what BJP is doing is, it is trying to poach the members of its own partners and also from the Congress. So this poaching, which we saw in Andhra Pradesh and also in the case of Telangana, they are very much different over here. Here the poaching is to maintain the requisite number. So the credibility of the entire democratic system is at stake over here. Then obviously, who is becoming a pawn for this entire game? The constitutional offices of governor and the constitutional office of the speaker. That's what is becoming the pawn. Next, the arrogance of the ignorant. So this article, it is all about the Forest Rights Act. Recently, Supreme Court stated that, adjudged that, the claims of the people with regard to the forest rights, if they are rejected, they shall be evicted by the state government. Any claim, if it is rejected, the state government has to evict them from the forests. So, the forest and traditional dwellers who are living over there, these are inhabitants for years together. The Forests Act, or Indian Forest Act of 1927, it was a big crime committed against the tribal people over there. So, at a single strike, British government declared the forest as the property of the state, and they have established some officers to settle if they have any claims of the land. So a tribal person who is totally ignorant is expected to go to that establishment officer, negotiate him and take the settlement from him. And it never happened. It means that the tribal people who are living in the forest, all of a sudden became the illegal immigrants of their own forest. And this injustice was set to be corrected by the Forest Rights Act. In the Forest Rights Act, individual rights are there, collective rights are there. So what are these collective rights, community rights, and right to protect the wildlife? All these are collective rights. So whenever a claim has to be passed, Grama Sabha has to approve that. it will be verified at the mandal and the district levels. This is what is the procedure. So in this context, environmentalists argue that the giving of forest rights to these people is leading to the clearing of the forest, and it is an insecurity to the wildlife. On the other hand, it is argued by the others, rights activists, is that no, these people who are living in the forests are actually the protector of the forest, because for them forest is equivalent to God, equivalent to mother. So indigenous tribal knowledge which is abundant in these forests is also will get neglected if they are being thrown out of the forest. So here the author what he argues is the people who are destroying the ecology, it is not the forest dwellers, it is the developmentalists. Either the dam construction or power plant construction, or to that matter mining, these are the reasons for this particular forest loss. So the environmentalists shall focus on this rather than the rights of these poor forest dwellers. That's what is the argument. The dark side of grand narratives. So this is again the hyper nationalism which is being spread by the BJP to win over these elections. Hyper nationalism, how it would be spread, the recent testing of a missile into the space. So it has been, there is a chest thumping after firing of this missile. Why this has happened? See, France, Pakistan, Israel, these also countries are said to have these capabilities, but they are silent. And China, though it has testified, it is silent on that. India and Indian Prime Minister explicitly published this. And second, with regard to Pulwama attacks, or for that matter, any of the terrorist attack, it is being more and more politicized and shown as the victory of a particular party. So let's not get into all these things. The BJP or NDA government, which was headed by Mr. A.B. Vajpayee, was quite starkly different compared to the Modi's regime. This is what this author talks about. Remember, the national greatness must not impose at the cost of weak in the periphery. It means that there has to be a greater focus on developmental needs, opportunities, and safety nets to be created to the people. Our essential focus shall be on this rather than seeing the society in a narrow perspective of a religion, an ideology, etc. That's what essence of this. And then rural job crunch. So this is the survey which has become very controversial and the government did not want to be released. This is periodic labor force survey. This clearly shows that unemployment is all-time high in India, and it is high among the educated, and on the rural side there is a total distress-like environment. That is what is this entire article talks about. So the share of rural salaried employees goes up. Why the salaried employees are going up? Because wage employment is increasing. As there is a kind of a drought, more and more people are depending upon the MG Narega. And the quality of jobs have gone down. Why? Because non-manual work is replaced by the manual work. And the rural youth are worst affected, and rural women are worst affected in this labor force. This is what is the survey talks about. Our role will be to find new business models that can make water much more accessible. If you go to any village, sub-immersible pumps, if you talk about, only one company that comes into name, that is Grundfos. So this Grundfos, it clearly says that the company or private company's ultimate goal is not just profitability, it is also the sustainability of the planet. So they want to make pumps which are energy conservative rather than consuming, and they also has to ensure this for the development of the water resources, profits for the development of the water resources. So business with human face, that is what is expected from today's business. That is what has been spoken in this article.